The abolition of slavery in 1863 did not eradicate the racist views that slavery embodied. These were embedded into society, and the people that supported them didn't want to change their views. The Jim Crow laws, which separated public places into colored and white, further encouraged racism. They systematically denied African Americans the right to vote and strongly discouraged any informal interaction between the two groups. The separate facilities, which were a representation of how society was divided. Activists such as Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Thurgood Marshall fought to break down these barriers and gain equal rights through empowerment of the public. They, along with many other social activists, risked their well-being and safety to fight for what was right. In 1954, amidst the civil rights movement, the Supreme Court ruled that segregation of schools was unconstitutional in the Brown v. Board of Education. This then overturned the previous ruling of Plessy v. Ferguson in 1896 that deemed segregation was constitutional if the faculties were separate but equal. But most faculties were not. White ones were well-funded, and color ones weren't. This new Supreme Court ruling triggered a wave of schools in the South to be desegregated, though many opposed this decision. Schools were mandated to desegregate and integrate black children into their previously white facilities. Like all other states, Arkansas and its school districts were forced to integrate. In its capital city, 80 students expressed interest in attending Little Rock Central High, but only 17 were accepted after consideration by the school board. The students were also approved to attend the school by members of the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, who wanted to ensure that they had the strength and perseverance to endure the resistance that they would inevitably face. Only 9 students showed up on the first day: Minnie Jean Brown, Elizabeth Eckford, Ernest Green, Jefferson Thomas, Thelma Mothershed, Melba Patello, Gloria Ray, Terrence Roberts, and Carlotta Walls. These students became known as the Little Rock Nine. The students showed up on that September morning because they had hoped for a better education and chance at a better life. They were not expecting the torture and hardships they were about to face. From the beginning, the deck was stacked against the Little Rock Nine. Whites in the South did not want colored citizens to belong in the same class as them. Desegregation of schools was a step in eliminating this class system, which was a threat to white Southerners. Along with most citizens, the governor of Arkansas, Orville Faubus, was staunchly against integration. He used his power in government time and time again to prevent desegregation. The resistance the students faced was comprised of hateful actions from white citizens and from the governor Faubus. September 4th approached quickly, and with it arrived the first day of school for the Little Rock Nine. The first day was understandably frightening. When the 9 students first arrived, they were greeted by an angry mob of violent white protesters. Faubus didn't try and stop the protesters. Instead, he took their side by sending in the National Guard to prevent the Little Rock Nine from entering the school. He claimed they were there to prevent the violence, but this was a facade, for their true intentions were to prevent the 9 from entering. Faubus's National Guard interference was against the law. President Dwight D. Eisenhower made it clear in a telegram he sent to the governor. Eisenhower held a meeting in Rhode Island to reiterate the importance of desegregation and oath men's duty to uphold the federal law. This decision was made because Faubus had slighted him and his authority, not necessarily to support civil rights. Eisenhower said to the governor that he didn't have to remove the troops, but he did have to ensure the children were let into the school. Mobs continued to gather outside the school, and Faubus kept the National Guard as a blockade despite the order against it. In response to this, Eisenhower deployed the 101st Airborne Division from Kentucky to protect the students. With this military assistance, the Little Rock Nine were finally able to enter the school and have their first full day of school on September 25th. After this, they started to attend school regularly. Some white students stopped coming to Central High School when the black students started to attend. The ones that remained fell into 2 groups. The first group of students consisted of the ones who physically abused and emotionally tormented incessantly.
Oh, yeah.
We had a lot of real physical pain to carry home to cry about.
Beat up. I really did get acid in my eyes. To this day, I wear glasses because the back of my right heel hurts because of people walking on the back of my heels. I carry scars on my legs for people kicking me. We all carry these scars in one form or another.
The students didn't just want the Little Rock Nine to leave the school. They wanted them killed.
My mother almost got hanged that day. People with ropes circled underneath their arm and over their shoulder, as they put it, ready to do business, ready to hang a neck.
The next group was comprised of those who were silent. Most were silent because they were indifferent towards the situation. Some were sympathetic towards the African American kids, but social pressures caused them not to act upon those feelings. A majority of the high schoolers were silent bystanders, who did not directly hurt the students, but whose abstinence was felt deeply by the Little Rock Nine. Most teachers did not support the African American students either. The Little Rock Nine, with almost no classmates or teachers to turn to, still possessed courage beyond belief to continue to go to school every day and endure ongoing suffering. The kids' first year at school was marked by Ernest Green's graduation. Though they had attended Central High for some time now, Governor Faubus was unwavering on his beliefs on segregated facilities. He wanted to delay integration in any way possible, even if it meant sacrificing the education of white students. Faubus passed several state laws that denied 3,500 students in their district of their public education by closing schools there. To legitimize the decision, he got the public to vote on it. Their 19,470 to 7,561 vote against integration was no surprise. Central High was shut down for the 1958 to 1959 school year. Because of the governor's childish actions, the students had to scramble to find other means of education. Some attended private schools, and some had to relocate or make other arrangements. It was especially hard for the Little Rock Nine during the lost year because they were not accepted by most private schools because of their color of skin. In the spring of 1959, a few organizations were courageous enough to stand up against the decision. They were able to elect 3 moderate members to the board who pushed for reopening of the schools early, which was the consensus. When they returned to school, the violence and hate resurfaced and only intensified over time. They continued to persevere until they completed their high school education. Minnie Jean Brown and Elizabeth Eckford did not graduate from Little Rock Central High. They finished high school at different locations. The other members graduated from Central High. After receiving higher education, all members pursued careers in humanitarian work. The Little Rock Nine's accomplishments were victories for themselves, but more importantly, a victory for the civil and educational rights. The Little Rock Nine, although only high school students, had a lasting impact on the civil rights movement and the desegregation of public schools throughout the United States. They persevered through countless barricades and became some of the first African American students to graduate from a desegregated school in the South, and paved the way for the following generations of African American children. The members of the Little Rock Nine were each awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in 1999 for outstanding service to their country. Even though their endeavors were valiant, the United States has taken a major step backwards in the integration of public schools. Today, resegregation within the public school system is a growing problem throughout the country. Segregated schools were on a rise after the 1991 Board of Education of Oklahoma City versus Dowell Supreme Court case that ended federal desegregation by freeing schools from the injunction to integrate. More than 20 million children of color attend schools that are segregated. Most segregated schools are in places with high poverty rates, which means that there is less school funding. Because of this, students have less experienced teachers and are offered less advanced courses, which puts them at a disadvantage. More than 50 years after the civil rights movement, our nation is still fighting for true justice.
Does it make you worry at all that the sacrifice that you made integrating this school has been squandered?
It does bother me that we take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back.
The road has been paved for us by those who are not afraid to stand up for what is right, such as the Little Rock Nine stand against an unfair education system. The Little Rock Nine left a legacy of hope and triumph, which needs to be preserved and fought for in order to carry the important beliefs they have emulated.